Hi there, and welcome to Naturally Recovering Autism. I am your host, Karen Thomas, and I want to thank you so much for being here today and being a proactive parent and getting the resources that you need to help your child lead to their optimum level of recovery, wherever that may mean for them. And when I was told that my son could not recover from his symptoms of autism, I knew that the brain can and does heal. My background of 30 years as a craniosacral therapist let me know that, but I didn't know that much about autism. So I had to begin my own research, and it took me a decade. But today, my son is fully recovered from his symptoms of autism. He's no longer diagnosable. He's a college graduate. He's happy, he's healthy, and he has a lot of friends. And this is about letting our children have their most fulfilling and independent life and making life better for them. So even if your child maintains their autism diagnosis, that's completely fine. What we want to do is help children, and I've done this for many parents I've helped, is help them get their nonverbal child speaking. For some, speaking endlessly. And I'll even link to in the show notes from one mom, Diana, who has an amazing story about her child. She was told the same thing, that he couldn't get better, and now she had his actual diagnosis was reversed. But children who are nonverbal can speak. Children who are getting D's and F's in school are now getting A's and B's. Children who were so anxious they couldn't sit in a classroom and focus and learn, or just even be calm at the dinner table, are now calm and relaxed and happy. And that's what we want for them, to be able to be who they are and get all of this chaos and this stuff out of their way, because they are toxic and inflamed. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to reduce those toxins and the inflammation and to help support their system so that they can get to their best level of recovery, and to help you as a parent, because I have lived this. I know exactly what it's like, and it's very challenging. And it took me over a decade, as I mentioned, and now I'm grateful that I have the information to share with you. And I have a free PDF guide that gives you the top 7 foods to eliminate to help begin reducing the inflammation and the toxic overload on your child's body. Because again, we're going to talk about immune system regulation today, and the immune system starts in the gut. This is a scientific fact. There's lots of studies. Up to 80% of the immune system comes from the gut. So it's very important to understand the first things you want to do are start with that line of defense. And that can start with diet. And I list the top 7 foods to eliminate from your child's diet, and they may likely be addicted to them. So it's a very slow process. Don't worry about trying to do it all at once. But the bad bacteria in their gut is addicted to those foods too. It uses them as sugars and foods to eat on. So as you start eliminating these foods, they start to die, hence the term die off. And you'll notice sometimes more increased emotional and physical behaviors. So do things very slowly. You can get that free guide at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/7 foods, just the number 7. That's something you can get started with today. And I'm really excited to share with you. If you're listening to this live or soon thereafter, you'll still be able to grab. I'm going to do a live 3-hour autism recovery masterclass. It's coming up soon. The registration for it is now available. So you can go to naturallyrecoveringautism.com/masterclass and register for it now. And last link for you, I'm going to give all of these things in today's show notes at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/109. And this is really important because we want to walk through all the stages of recovery. We've got healing the gut, safe, natural, heavy metal detoxification. I did a whole series on that in the month of November 2020. If you didn't listen to it, you can go back on my website and listen to some of those episodes to really get informed of some of the natural and safe ways to detoxify. And I will link to them in the show notes today as well. And then also the co-infections like mold and Lyme and strep. We're going to talk about those today as well, because they have a lot to do with today's episode, which I've titled Why It Can Be Dangerous to Boost the Immune System with Autism. And you might be thinking, well, Karen, don't I want to boost the immune system in my child? They have a weak immune system and they get sick all the time. But the problem is with the regulation. So children with autism have immune system disorders. It's really similar to an autoimmune disease such as lupus or rheumatoid arthritis or type 1 diabetes, or even inflammatory bowel disease, which is where the immune system attacks the lining of the gut and the large intestine. And these are all autoimmune, and they're abnormally low activity or overactivity of the immune system. In cases of immune system overactivity, the body is actually attacking and damaging its own tissues. So that's where the term autoimmune diseases comes from. And as a response to a trigger, the immune system might begin and often does produce antibodies that attack its own body tissues instead of fighting the infection. So, taking such immune boosting herbal formulas, one example is echinacea. It can boost the immune system for those in need of it, and it can be great short term. But for many with autoimmune issues, this herb can be overstimulating to the immune system and causing a lot further immune deficiency. So it reduces the natural ability to fight foreign invaders in the body and create further vulnerability to infections. T cells are immune cells, and the issue lies in controlling the reaction to one's own cells versus various environmental factors causing the response. So, a T cell mediated inflammatory response, and these have been well documented in studies, which I'll even link to in today's show notes for you, as having an essential role in the development of autoimmune diseases. This causes a reduction in the good regulatory B cells that produce needed antibodies that help calm the inflammation by calming down the overactive T cell immune responses. And the process is affected by the methylation pathway. And I've done a show in the past on the methylation and the MTHFR gene mutation. So if you remember that gene mutation, very, very common, about 98% of kids with autism have it. Not to fear it, it becomes triggered, that gene becomes triggered to be disrupted and not work properly. And what that means to you, for your child, and possibly yourself, because it's very common, is that your detoxification pathways are not working properly. And so we want to bring those pathways back to balance by supporting them all the way. And it starts with gut healing and detoxification. And again, back to clearing out those co-infections that will often keep the inflammatory response really strong and prevent healing from happening at all. Even when you're doing a really good job, you've got maybe your child on a really good diet and you're thinking, Karen, I've been doing all these things for a long time. How come my child is plateauing and not getting better? And it's often due to one of these co-infections or something's getting missed. I see this all the time with the parents that I work with. And that's why we get results in my membership program, because it's an A to Z. You don't want to just be working with the diet and think that's all you've got to do. There's more to this. So let's talk about immune modulation in the gut. Treatment for autoimmune diseases generally focuses on reducing immune system activity. So, all too often, parents are unknowingly creating further immune system issues in children with autism. And it's important to work with the causes, which can naturally be immune regulating. Now, I'm all about the causes, not working with symptoms. We're going deeper. We're finding what the cause of the issue is. And often, kids are given pharmaceutical, or people are given pharmaceutical drugs as the only measure to work with these issues. But a much more effective way of balancing these causes comes from diet, detoxification, reducing the inflammation, and improving the health of the GI system. So, boosting the immune system will tell the body to increase inflammation if you really are boosting it again. Then it will tell it to increase the inflammation, which is a big part of the already existing problem in autism and can cause further health and behavioral problems. We don't want the immune system to be overactive or underactive. So the words we're looking at here are regulation, or you might also hear the word modulation. So regulation or modulation of the immune system will lead to significant benefits in the treatment of autoimmune diseases and autism. Pathogenic or bad bacteria are in the GI, the gastrointestinal tract, and they cause inflammation also. Again, toxic overload, creating leaky gut syndrome, allowing undigested food and toxic waste into the bloodstream. Now, the immune system then sees these toxic invaders and sends out inflammation markers, which it's supposed to do. And it says, Let's fight those. There's a foreign invader in our body. And what happens is then the immune system starts creating more antibodies toward those foods, and they can be healthy foods, but because they've entered undigested into the bloodstream, they are seen as a foreign agent. So you might again see how your child has increasing food allergies over and over. There's more and more they're allergic to. And it goes back to this reason again, inflamed and leaking gut. So the immune system being overreactive due to all of this. So commonly known pathogenic gut bacteria also that contribute are K. pneumonia, E. coli, H. pylori, Candida albicans, and then the Lyme bacteria, Borrelia burgdorferi. And I will link to these in the show notes of episodes I've done on them in the past, if you'd like to look a little further into those. And also some natural solutions to them, of course, as well. One of the many health-related issues for children with autism is a chronic inflammatory response. It's also termed a CIRS or CIRS, often caused by mold biotoxins. Now, this is a genetic defect that 29% of the world population has. It's very common, and when our body is exposed to mold from water-damaged buildings, whether it's in our home or somewhere we've been, it will put out inflammation markers to start fighting off those toxins. But because it can't dispel the toxins, it can't get rid of them, it keeps building and building. So the immune system keeps throwing out more inflammation markers. And then you end up with this chronic inflammatory response syndrome. It is a multiple system infection. It affects multiple systems of the body, and it must be worked with properly. A lot of the symptoms you might notice are depression. People are actually put on antidepressant medications when it is actually from the CIRS, the chronic inflammation from mold. So depression, anxiety, lack of mental clarity, chronic fatigue, digestive issues are huge because it really disrupts the gut, motor and nerve function disturbance, and a lot more. So it can be one of the reasons, again, why your child's not getting better. We also need to support the liver. Now, I've done some recent podcast episodes on the liver and supporting it. Very important to know the liver and GI tract are directly related to these issues with inflammation and an overactive immune response. But why? The liver and GI tract are the front line of defense against any foreign invasion. And liver congestion can often begin in utero. So our kids can actually be born with a congested liver because of the toxins that mom's exposed to while she's pregnant or that she has in her body as well. No blame here, it just is. And we have a very toxic environment. In fact, when I work with members in my program, I always tell them that everybody in the family should be going through the program together because, as I say, the leaf doesn't fall too far from the tree, and you want to be healthy too, right? Your child needs you to be healthy as well as you need you to be healthy. And we can continue to pass infections around the household. So we don't want to just be doing a lot of great work for our child with autism, but not be doing anything for ourselves or our spouse or our siblings or their siblings. So that's important too. And again, that liver is that organ of detoxification, and they're often born with a congested liver. And then there's more toxic exposure, and hence it just becomes a big problem. And then methylation pathways get affected, and these detoxification pathways don't work well already. So the body becomes more burdened by the toxins that the liver can't process out fast enough on its own. Microorganisms can also mutate with something called biofilm, which is this protective matrix that they build around themselves. And I'll link to an episode I did on that. But it can make these bugs in the body, these pathogenic bacteria, become very, very vaccine or antibiotic resistant. They are resistant to a lot of the medications or antifungal agents, all of these things. So you got to know how to work with biofilm properly. Otherwise, these microorganisms, their biofilm can make them 100 up to 1,000 times more resistant to these kinds of treatment. So, you're fighting an uphill battle if you're not covering them properly. The most dangerous factor in all of this to the host, which is the body, our body, your child's body, is not from the bugs themselves, but from the response of the immune system. So all of this pathogenic activity begins creating an inflammatory response, which then turns on the immune system. And the inflammation continues, and so the immune system stays on. This creates an overactive immune system, which causes autoimmune diseases, neurological damage, that means brain, and a lot more. So again, immune modulation or immune regulation must be addressed to restore the balance. So what's the good news? The good news is that epigenetics can be reversed. Epigenetics is the science of genes being altered by environmental factors. And it is a scientific fact, and I'm going to link to this one interesting study on genetics and epigenetic influences on the loss of tolerance in autoimmunity so that you can read about it, that both genetic predisposition and epigenetic modifications are implicated in the loss of tolerances in autoimmunity. So you can understand a little bit more about it. And I've also done an interview fairly recently, again, in November on my detoxification month, the episodes and the themes for that month, especially heavy metal detoxification. I interviewed Dr. Stuart Lonke in episode number 102, and I'll link to that in the show notes today too. But Dr. Lonke is a UCLA, Los Angeles University professor. He's a world-renowned expert in environmental toxins. And in that interview, he talks about epigenetics and how they can be reversed. These autoimmune diseases and reactions can be managed if the diet is not inflammatory or filled with the toxins, because again, 80% of the immune cells are housed in the gut lining. So if the gut is inflamed or irritated, it cannot produce the sufficient immune cells, and therefore the immunity becomes worse. So what do? You support the liver during detoxification with toxin binders. They help remove toxic waste that can back up in the liver if it's not strong enough to excrete them on its own. Children with autism are often born with a congested liver, so remember, it's important to support the liver first. Healing the gut is also crucial in modulating the immune system for optimum results in autism recovery and anything autoimmune. The gut controlling 80% of the immune system, so a weak GI tract will cause a lack of nutrient absorption and a weak dysregulated immune system. It's important, again, utilizing the gut healing diet, and I will link to the 7 foods diet in the show notes as well for you. It's a free PDF. Proper support with detoxification, which is done very, very slowly. And that's very important. I can't stress that enough. I know that sometimes we get eager, and I am even guilty of it. Back when I was working with my son, we want to see results fast. We want to do whatever we can. We're researching in and out of the internet and finding some supplements and some things. So maybe the doctor's given us a handful of supplements to take. I see this all the time still with my members, and it's downright dangerous. You need to do it slowly. You need to do things one at a time so the body can adjust, so their body knows how to work with it. You can tell if one supplement has caused a reaction because you've done it one at a time. All of these things are very important. So I can't stress going slow, being stressed enough to go slowly and how important that is. Again, toxin binders and minerals will help support detoxification pathways. And if you jump in with something like, say, a multivitamin too soon, then your child could react to one or more of those in that one supplement. There are multiple vitamins in there. And if they have parasitic issues, then the parasites could also use the vitamins as food. You won't know which one of those multivitamins that your child had a reaction to if you give it too soon as well. And your child may be eating well, but their body's not actually able to absorb the nutrients due to the chronic inflammation and the leaky gut. Ongoing infections, such as, again, Lyme and mold biotoxins, continue to harm the gut lining ongoing. This inflammation is causing distress to the gut lining and keeping it ill and keeping those holes in there. So they have to be worked with and getting the inflammation down so the body can effectively start to begin to heal. Now, I know this is a lot of information, and I've mentioned a lot of things here. And so that's why, again, I'm really excited that this is going to be followed very soon by my free 3-hour Autism Recovery Masterclass. It's a live event, so you can get your questions answered. because I know that I ran into the same thing when I was working with my son, that I'd even go have doctor's appointments and I didn't get all of my questions answered. I found that they often didn't even know the answers to the questions properly. And I came home and I thought, I've got to do this for myself. But it would have been so helpful to have somebody to answer my questions along the way as I was working with my son's body myself. So first, we're going to deal with work with healing the gut. Then we're going to talk about natural, safe, heavy metal detoxification. Then we're going to go through stage 3 is clearing those co-infections of autism, Lyme, mold, PANS. And then brain support and repair is really important as well. Once all the toxins and inflammation are out of the way. And then after all that, some more maintenance as well. So you know what to do once you have done the work with your child's body and they've gotten better. And so these are all going to be covered again in this live masterclass. We'll also have time for Q&A so you can get your questions answered. And registration for that is open right now. So please go to naturallyrecoveringautism.com/masterclass, all one word, and register for that now. And we'll go ahead and send you reminder emails as it gets closer. So please don't delay, and please share it with anybody you know who would be interested. This is a really, really valuable event, and it's free. There's no charge for it at all. I could easily be charging for it. I'm not charging anything for it. I want to give it to you and show you what needs to be done, help you clarify it for you, answer your questions, and I will show you how I can support you with this and how I can walk you through this in a straight roadmap too, because I know that that's important for, if you're really looking for a roadmap and you're looking for how to do all of these steps, then I want to make sure that you have that guidance as well. So we'll be talking about that in the masterclass too. So I look really forward to doing that for you. Again, today's show notes will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/109. And please share this with anybody you know who would be interested. This episode, the podcast, if you could please give me a good positive rating on iTunes, it would be helpful as well to help more people see that it's benefited you, so they look at it and hopefully listen and understand the benefits to them. And then, yeah, anybody who who would be interested in the live masterclass, please share it. It's free to everybody, open to everyone, and everyone is welcome, because everybody's child and every parent deserves the chance to have the support they need and to get the best results possible. And I look really, really forward to doing that for you. So here's to a happy, healthy 2021. We're going to start the new year out right. It is time, right? It's a new year and it's time to do things with a plan and with support and to get the results that you're looking for. Because I know if you look back a year ago, you might be thinking you thought by now you might have a little bit more results with your child. And if you haven't reached those optimum results, I'd like to help you get there. So thanks again for being here, being a great parent, and I really look forward to helping you and seeing you soon.